The sun was setting over the turquoise waters of the Caribbean, casting a golden hue that made everything seem almost too perfect. My wife Lisa stood on the balcony of our resort room, her laughter mingling with the gentle sound of waves lapping against the shore. I couldn't help but smile as I watched her, the woman I had loved for over a decade. We had planned this vacation for months, an escape from the grind of daily life, a chance to reconnect. We were a couple that many envied. We had built a life together, shared dreams, and most importantly, a deep bond that I believed was unbreakable. Lisa was beautiful, intelligent, and had a knack for making any moment feel special. It was no wonder that I couldn't wait to see what adventures awaited us on this trip. Our first full day was filled with excitement. We joined a guided tour that promised breathtaking views and local culture. The tour guide, a man named Marco, was everything you'd expect from someone in his profession. Charming, charismatic, with an easy smile that seemed to put everyone at ease. He had a way of telling stories that made you feel like you were a part of them. I could see how the other women on the tour were drawn to him, but I brushed it off as harmless flirtation. After all, Lisa was devoted to me. As we explored ancient ruins and danced to the rhythm of local music, I felt a sense of bliss that I hadn't experienced in a long time. The world around us was vibrant, full of life and color, and I was grateful to share it with my wife. We took countless photos, capturing moments that I hoped would last a lifetime. I remember thinking how lucky I was to have her by my side, how this trip was exactly what we needed to rekindle the spark in our marriage. But as the days went by, I noticed something unsettling. Lisa seemed more captivated by Marco's tales than by my attempts to engage her in conversation. I brushed it aside at first, telling myself I was being paranoid. She was simply enjoying the experience, right? Yet, a nagging feeling began to gnaw at me, a whisper of doubt that I couldn't quite shake. On the third evening, as we sat on the beach watching the sunset, I caught Marco's eye from a distance. He was laughing with a group of tourists, Lisa among them. I could see the way she leaned into him, her head tilted back in laughter. It was a beautiful sight, but something about it twisted in my gut. I dismissed it, forcing myself to believe that I was overreacting. After all, a vacation was meant to be fun, and I didn't want to ruin our time together with unfounded jealousy. As night fell, I put those thoughts aside and focused on enjoying the moment. We shared a romantic dinner under the stars, and for a moment everything felt right in the world. I clinked my glass against hers, toasting to love, adventure, and the life we had built. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Little did I know, those feelings of unease would soon evolve into a reality I never expected. The idyllic setting of our vacation was about to shatter, and I would soon discover that the very person I trusted the most was hiding a secret that would turn my life upside down. It was the fourth day of our vacation when the air shifted. I woke up early, the sun just peeking over the horizon, casting soft rays through the sheer curtains of our hotel room. I decided to take a stroll along the beach while Lisa slept in. As I walked, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore filled my ears, and I felt a sense of peace wash over me. But that tranquility was short-lived. When I returned to our room, I found Lisa on her phone, her expression a mix of excitement and something else, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. I dismissed it, thinking she was just eager to share our vacation with friends back home. However, as the day wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something. Later that afternoon, I decided to do some exploring on my own. I wandered into a quaint little cafe, hopping for a moment of solitude with a good book. As I sipped my coffee, I noticed a couple at the table next to me, their conversation drifting over. They spoke of the tour we had taken, and I caught the name Marco. My heart sank. I leaned in closer, trying to catch every word. The woman mentioned how charming he was, how he had taken a particular interest in her friend. My stomach twisted as I realized the friend was Lisa. They laughed about how Marco had a way of making everyone feel special. I wanted to roll my eyes to scoff at their naivete, but instead, a cold realization washed over me. I hurried back to the hotel, my mind racing. I needed to know for sure. I rummaged through our belongings until I found Lisa's phone, which she had left unattended on the nightstand. My heart pounded as I unlocked it, a mix of dread and determination coursing through me. I scrolled through her messages, each one feeling like a dagger to my heart. There it was, a thread of messages between Lisa and Marco. They were light-hearted at first, filled with jokes and emojis, but as I read further, my world crumbled. They talked about meeting up outside of the tour, about sneaking away for some private time. My hands shook as I read the words, disbelief and anger clawing at my insides. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. The laughter that had once echoed in my mind turned into a haunting reminder of betrayal. I dropped the phone as if it were a hot coal, my entire body trembling. I wanted to scream, to rage, to confront her right then and there, but I didn't want to give in to that anger. Not yet. Instead, I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. I spent the next hour packing the hotel room, my mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. I felt like a detective piecing together a puzzle I had never wanted to solve. I knew I needed proof, something tangible that I could confront her with. I couldn't just accuse her based on messages alone, I needed to see it for myself. That evening I suggested we go on another tour, one that promised a sunset view from a nearby cliff. Lisa, oblivious to my inner turmoil, agreed excitedly. As we boarded the bus, I spotted Marco in the distance, a confident swagger in his step. My heart raced, not with excitement but with fury. I wanted to confront him, to demand answers, but I held back. I needed to play it smart. During the tour, I kept a close eye on Lisa and Marco. They interacted more than I liked, their chemistry palpable. I felt like a puppet on a string, my emotions twisting and turning with every laugh and glance they shared. It was infuriating to watch the man who was supposed to be a guide become something more to my wife. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of purple and orange, I felt a pit in my stomach grow deeper. I had to act, and I had to act fast. That night as we returned to the hotel, I lay in bed next to Lisa, her soft breathing a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. I couldn't sleep. I was consumed with thoughts of betrayal, anger, and the overwhelming need for revenge. I would confront Lisa in the morning, but first, I needed to gather my thoughts and prepare for what would come next. I had loved her, trusted her, and now I felt like a fool. But I was determined to make her, and Marco, understand the weight of their betrayal. I would not let this go unpunished. The morning light spilled into our hotel room, illuminating the stark reality of my situation. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my heart racing as I prepared for the confrontation that was looming. I knew I had to approach Lisa carefully. This wasn't just about anger. It was about exposing the truth and reclaiming my dignity. As I turned to her, she stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "Good morning, love," she smiled, that beautiful smile that had captivated me for years. But today, it felt like a mask hiding something sinister. "What are we doing today?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "We need to talk," I replied, my voice steady but laced with an edge of tension. Her smile faltered, replaced by a look of concern. "About what?" I hesitated for a moment, the words caught in my throat. It was one thing to suspect infidelity, another to confront the person you loved about it, but I wasn't going to let fear dictate my actions. "About you and Marco." Her expression shifted, confusion etched across her face. "Marco, what do you mean?" I pulled out my phone, the messages I had discovered burning in my mind. I had saved screenshots, ready to lay out the evidence. "I know about the messages, Lisa. I saw everything." Her face paled, and for a moment I thought I saw genuine fear in her eyes. "What messages?" She stammered, but I could see the wheels turning in her mind. I showed her the screenshots, the words that had cut me deeper than any knife. "You were planning to meet him. You've been flirting with him since we got here." She took the phone from my hands, her fingers trembling as she scrolled through the messages. I I can explain," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Explain what?" I shot back, my anger flaring. "How you've been leading him on while I'm right here, how you've betrayed me." "It's not like that," she pleaded, her voice rising in desperation. "Marco is just charming. I never meant for it to go this far. It was just harmless fun." "Harmless fun," I echoed, incredulity spilling from my lips. "Do you even hear yourself? You're talking about an emotional affair." This isn't just some innocent flirting, Lisa. She looked down, shame washing over her face. I didn't think it would upset you. It was all just in the moment. In the moment, I felt the heat of betrayal coursing through my veins. You think that makes it okay? You think I would just sit back and let this happen? Lisa's eyes filled with tears, and I could see the regret fighting with her denial. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did, I said, my voice cold. You hurt me in a way I never thought possible. The silence that followed felt heavy, like the weight of the world was pressing down on us. I wanted to scream, to throw things, to make her feel the pain I was experiencing. But what I truly wanted was for her to understand the gravity of her actions. Do you love him? I asked, my voice softer now but still charged with emotion. Her eyes widened in shock. No, I love you. It was a mistake. Then why did you let it happen? I don't know, she cried, frustration bubbling over. I got caught up in the excitement of the trip. It was stupid. I thought it was harmless. Harmless. I shook my head, the bitterness rising in my throat. You've shattered my trust, Lisa. How can I ever see you the same way again? I'll do anything to make it right, she pleaded, reaching out for my hand. But I pulled away, the distance between us feeling like an insurmountable chasm. I needed time to think, to process what had just unfolded. I stood up, packing the small room, my mind racing with emotions. I felt like a stranger in my own life, grappling with the reality that the woman I adored had betrayed me in the most intimate way possible. Maybe we need some space, I finally said, my voice steady but my heart breaking. I need to figure out what I want. Please don't say that, she begged, tears streaming down her cheeks. I love you, I'm so sorry. But her words felt hollow now, like echoes of a love that had once been vibrant but was now dulled by betrayal. I walked toward the door, needing to escape, to breathe. As I stepped outside, the warmth of the sun hit me, but it couldn't thaw the frost that had settled in my heart. I knew I had to take action to reclaim my power in this situation. I didn't want to be a victim. I wanted to be the one in control. And that's when the idea hit me. If Marco thought he could play with my wife's heart, then he needed to learn a lesson about the consequences of his actions. I would make sure he felt the sting of my revenge. In the days that followed our confrontation, I felt a strange mix of emotions swirling within me. Anger, betrayal, and an unexpected clarity. I had been blindsided by Lisa's infidelity, but now I was fueled by a sense of purpose. I couldn't let Marco get away with what he had done. He had crossed a line, and I was determined to make him pay. I spent hours plotting my revenge, my mind racing with possibilities. I knew I had to be clever to ensure that my actions would be both satisfying and impactful. I wanted to expose Marco for what he really was, a charming predator who preyed on unsuspecting women, and I had just the plan to do it. The first step was to gather information. I started by discreetly asking around the resort. I talked to other tourists, posing as a curious guest interested in the local tour. I learned that Marco had a reputation, not just for being charming, but for being a bit of a ladies' man. It turned out he had a history of flirting with the tourists, often leading them on without any intention of commitment. This was the ammunition I needed. Next, I went online. I found the travel company that employed Marco and began to craft my plan. I wrote a series of reviews on various travel forums, detailing my experience with Marco and emphasizing his inappropriate behavior. I didn't want to lie. I just wanted to present the truth in a way that would make the company take notice. I painted Marco as a man who used his position to exploit the trust of women, someone who had no qualms about crossing boundaries. I mentioned Lisa's name, not in a defamatory way, but as an example of how he had made her feel special during the tour, only to betray that trust. I wanted the company to see the potential damage he could cause, not just to individuals but to their reputation. As the days passed, I watched as my reviews garnered attention. Other tourists began to chime in, sharing their own stories of Marco's flirtatious behavior. The travel company couldn't ignore the growing list of complaints. I felt a surge of satisfaction each time I saw a new comment echoing my sentiments. It was like watching a house of cards slowly begin to collapse. But I wasn't done yet. I wanted to ensure that Marco faced consequences beyond bad reviews. I decided to take it a step further. I contacted the local tourism board, sharing my concerns about Marco's conduct. I presented myself as a concerned husband who had witnessed firsthand how easily a tour guide could manipulate the trust of his clients. I emphasized the need for strict standards among tour guides, especially those who interacted closely with tourists. My calls and emails were met with concern and interest. They promised to look into the matter, and I knew that Marco's charm would only get him so far. The wheels of consequence were in motion, and I felt a sense of empowerment. I was no longer the victim, I was the one taking action. Meanwhile, Lisa was trying to mend the rift between us. She reached out repeatedly, begging for forgiveness, promising she would change. But I was still too hurt to entertain her pleas. I needed to focus on my plan, on making Marco understand that his actions had repercussions. One evening, as I was sitting on the balcony, sipping a drink and watching the sunset, I received a message from one of the tourists who had joined our tour. They had heard about the reviews and were curious to know more. I shared my story, and they expressed their gratitude for bringing the issue to light. It felt good to know that I wasn't alone in this. The following day, I received a call from the travel company. They informed me that they were taking my complaint seriously and would be launching an internal investigation into Marco's behavior. I felt a thrill of satisfaction course through me. Marco would have to answer for his actions, and I would be the one holding him accountable. As I sat back, reflecting on the chaos I had unleashed, I realized that this wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my sense of self, my dignity. I had been hurt, but I was no longer willing to be a passive participant in my own life. I was taking control, and it felt liberating. But I also knew that revenge had its own complexities. While I was enjoying the satisfaction of watching Marco's world begin to crumble, I couldn't ignore the reality that Lisa was still my wife. She had betrayed me, but I had loved her once. The thought of losing her forever weighed heavily on my heart. I had a decision to make. Would I continue down this path of revenge, or would I give her a chance to prove herself? For now, though, I was content to watch as Marco's reputation began to spiral. I had made my point, and I intended to see it through to the end. As the days passed and my revenge against Marco unfolded, I found myself in a strange limbo. The satisfaction of watching his world begin to unravel was exhilarating, yet it came with an unexpected weight. I had always prided myself on being a man of integrity, someone who approached life with a sense of fairness. Now, I was knee-deep in a scheme that was anything but noble. The investigation into Marco's behavior was gaining traction. The travel company reached out to me for further details, and I provided them with every piece of information I had gathered. It felt good to know that I was shining a light on his misdeeds, but there was a nagging voice in my head reminding me that revenge, however justified, often leads to unforeseen consequences. In the midst of this turmoil, Lisa continued to reach out. I could hear the desperation in her voice as she pleaded for another chance. "I know I messed up," she said one evening over the phone, "but I love you. I want to make this right." Her words pierced through the fog of anger I had wrapped myself in. I wanted to believe her, to trust that she meant what she said. Yet, every time I thought of her laughter shared with Marco, every moment of intimacy that had been lost, it felt like a fresh wound reopening. I was caught between the desire to forgive and the instinct to protect myself from further pain. One night, as I sat on the beach watching the waves crash against the shore, I reflected on the last few weeks. I had been so consumed with revenge that I hadn't taken the time to truly process my emotions. I had lost sight of the love I once felt for Lisa, the woman who had shared my life for so long. I picked up my phone and opened a new message to her. "Let's meet," I typed, hesitating before hitting send. I knew I had to confront her again, not just about Marco, but about us. It was time to lay everything on the table and see if there was any hope left for our marriage. When we met, the air was thick with tension. I could see the remorse etched on her face, the way she avoided my eyes, and it made my heart ache. "Thank you for meeting me," she said softly, her voice trembling. "Let's cut to the chase, Lisa," I replied, my tone firm. "You betrayed me. You made a choice to go behind my back, and now I need to know if you truly understand the gravity of that choice." "I do," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "I was foolish, caught up in the excitement. But I love you. I want to fix this. I'll do whatever it takes. Do you understand that love isn't just about words?" I pressed, my anger simmering beneath the surface. "It's about trust, respect, and honesty. You shattered that trust." "I know, and I'm so sorry," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "I've been talking to a counselor. I want to understand why I did this. I want to be better." I listened, torn between my desire to believe her and the reality of the pain she had caused. "What if I can't trust you again?" I asked, the vulnerability in my voice surprising even me. "Then I'll prove it to you," she said, her determination shining through the tears. "I'll show you that I can be the wife you deserve. Just give me a chance." In that moment, I realized that revenge had not only been directed at Marco, it had also been a way to shield myself from facing my own feelings about Lisa. I had wanted to hurt him for what he had done, but I had also used it as a distraction from the pain of my own. "Hart, here's the thing," I said finally, my voice steady. "I'm still processing everything. I need time to think, but I'm willing to try if you are." Her eyes lit up with hope, a glimmer of the woman I had fallen in love with. "I will do whatever it takes, I promise." As we parted ways, I felt a strange sense of relief. I was still angry, still hurt, but there was a flicker of hope now. Maybe we could rebuild what had been broken, but it wouldn't be easy. In the following days, I continued to monitor the fallout from my actions against Marco. The travel company had officially suspended him pending the investigation, and I felt a sense of justice wash over me. But I also felt a twinge of guilt. Was I right to ruin his career? Did he deserve that kind of punishment? These thoughts plagued me as I navigated my relationship with Lisa. We began to communicate more openly, sharing our feelings and fears. I could see her making an effort to rebuild the trust we had lost. It was a slow process, filled with awkward moments and painful reminders of the past, but there was also an underlying current of determination. I found myself reflecting on the nature of love and trust. It was fragile, easily broken, but not impossible to repair. I realized that I had to let go of the need for revenge to truly heal. My focus needed to shift from what Marco had done to what Lisa and I could do together moving forward. As I stood on the beach once more, watching the waves recede and return, I understood that healing would take time, but it was a journey worth embarking on. I couldn't change the past, but I could influence our future. The days turned into weeks, and slowly but surely I began to see a shift in my relationship with Lisa. We were both trying, albeit clumsily, to navigate the aftermath of her betrayal. I had spent so much time focused on revenge that I had neglected the healing process we both needed. Lisa had started attending counseling sessions, and I could see the changes in her. She was more introspective, willing to address the reasons behind her actions. It was a difficult conversation every time, but each discussion peeled back another layer of the hurt we had both been carrying. One evening, we sat on the balcony of our hotel room, the sound of the ocean waves providing a soothing backdrop to our conversation. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over everything, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of peace. "I've been thinking," I began, my voice steady, "about what it means to trust again. It's going to take time, and I want you to know that I'm willing to work on this with you." Her eyes lit up, but there was also a hint of sadness in them. "I know I hurt you deeply, and I can't take that back, but I want to be better for you, for us. I want to rebuild what we had." I nodded, feeling the weight of her sincerity. "I want that too, but we have to be honest with each other moving forward. No more secrets." "Agreed," she said, her voice unwavering. "I want to be transparent about everything. I never want to feel like I'm hiding anything from you again." As we talked, I realized that this journey was just about forgiveness. It was about rediscovering the love that had initially brought us together. We had both made mistakes, and while my quest for revenge had felt justified at the time, I understood that it was ultimately hollow. I had learned that love is not just about the good times, it's about how you navigate the challenges together. I had allowed my anger to overshadow the possibility of healing, but now I was ready to embrace the complexities of our relationship. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I could forgive Lisa, but it would take time. I needed to see her commitment to change, and she needed to understand that rebuilding trust was a gradual process. In the weeks that followed, we began to explore our relationship anew, taking small steps toward rebuilding our foundation. We went on dates, engaged in deep conversations, and even sought couples counseling together. Each session was challenging, but it brought us closer. I began to recognize the importance of vulnerability, of laying bare our fears and insecurities. Lisa shared her struggles with self-worth and how they had influenced her decisions. In turn, I opened up about my feelings of inadequacy and the fear of losing her. Through these discussions, I began to see the woman I had fallen in love with, the one who had always been there beneath the surface. It was difficult to shake off the remnants of betrayal, but I was committed to the journey. Meanwhile, Marco's situation continued to unfold. The travel company had terminated his employment, and I felt a sense of closure knowing that I had played a part in holding him accountable. But I also recognized that my actions had consequences beyond just him. I had to let go of the anger I felt toward him, realizing that he was a symptom of a larger issue, one that had affected both Lisa and me. As we moved forward, I found myself reflecting on the lessons learned from this experience. Love is a fragile thing, easily broken but not impossible to mend. It requires effort, communication, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. I still had moments of doubt, moments when I questioned if I could truly forgive her. But with each passing day, I felt a little stronger, a little more willing to trust again. Our relationship had been tested, but it was also being rebuilt with a new foundation of understanding and honesty. One evening, as we walked along the beach hand in hand, I turned to Lisa and smiled. "I think we're going to be okay," I said, feeling a sense of hope wash over me. She squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you for giving me a chance to prove that I can be better." As we watched the waves crash against the shore, I realized that while the past would always be a part of our story, it didn't have to define our future. Together, we were learning to navigate the complexities of love and trust, and in doing so, we were forging a new path, one that was filled with hope and possibility. In the end, I understood that life is a series of choices, and sometimes those choices lead us down unexpected roads. But as long as we were willing to learn and grow, there was always a chance for redemption. And as I looked at Lisa, I knew that our journey was far from over. It was just beginning.